Welcome to Vets to PM's Military Transition Academy podcast, the show where we discuss how to succeed in transitioning from the military service to the civilian workforce. This show and the academy it represents helps veterans transition into meaningful, lucrative post-service careers. Your primary host is Eric Doc Wright, PhD, certified manager, military veteran, serial founder, best-selling business author, philosopher, linguist, and coach. Your other host is Jeremy Burdick, project management professional, scrum master, product owner, and retired Air Force chief, and the current COO of Vets to PM and the Professional Development Unit University, where we will interview veterans successful in corporate America and business to bring you nuggets of wisdom every episode to make you more successful. Next, let's introduce today's guest. Our guest today is Leverett Hoover, affectionately called Hoov. He is the National Operations Manager for Midwest and Pacific Zones for Siemens Industry Incorporated, and he also serves with the Alaska Vice State Chair for the Department of Defense Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, called ESGR, and he sits on their board of directors as West Region as a representative. Hoov is the honorary commander for the 176th Alaska Air National Guard Wing, and he served as an enlisted member for 8 years in the United States Air Force as an air traffic control radar maintenance technician. Leverett has received numerous awards, so many that we would be here for 5 minutes just listing them. So I'll just say the man has been recognized as an expert in just about any field he dedicates effort to. And interesting enough, he cares about you. Yes, the veteran trying to find their way in this world. And we dedicate this episode to his advice. So let's get after it because there's so much here. I don't want you to miss it due to time. All right. So it's such an honor to have you here, Hoov. I really appreciate you taking time and spending a little bit of it with us on this podcast. And I really want to hit you up with a doozy that'll start this off is why does Siemens hire veterans and a specific type of veteran at that?
Yeah, so absolutely. And I take a look at 5 things at Siemens, why we hire veterans. And first of all, you take a look at integrity, right? A veteran really truly knows how to put an honest day's work in. And I use the story of all the time when I'd hire a veteran and I'd have somebody coming right out of college. And I would assign that new college hire to a veteran to be their mentor, to be their coach. Why is that? Because the veteran knows how to put an honest day's work, right? The college graduate would come in at 2 minutes before the start of the duty day and start doing emails, getting their cup of coffee, and the veteran's already out the door and heading out to the job site. Because why? We're taught as veterans, you show up to an appointment maybe 30 minutes early, but definitely 15 minutes early. And so a veteran shares that with the new hires we have. Next, I look at efficiency of performance under pressure, right? A veteran understands what it's like to the rigors of the work on a tight schedule. The veteran understands when there's a commitment or a timeline that needs to be met, somebody from command standing over their shoulder saying, when is this going to be done? When you're going to have that radar system back up and online because we got aircraft that we need to land or we need to get off. And they understand that pressure. So that's huge for us. The third one is teamwork. I mean, as a veteran, when the day we step into basic training all the way through, we have to rely on others to have our 6, right? We have to understand that. And veterans understand that. And again, they mentor those folks that don't understand the life that we came from. The fourth thing is an accelerated learning curve. Veterans love to learn new things, new skills, new concepts, and they are acceptable to change. They adapt to change and they overcome that change. And so that's the fourth one. And then loyalty. What I've found with the veterans over the years, I direct hire those folks transitioning right out of active duty. But even better, when I'm working with folks that are transitioning out of active duty, I try to recruit to see if they still want to be involved as a veteran. And so I'll talk to them about opportunities in the Guard and Reserve. And Siemens puts a huge focus on hiring Guard and Reservists. We like the fact that there's a commitment, even if it's even if it's a weekend a month or 1 or 2 weeks out of the year for training, we honor that. And, you know, they bring another level of commitment to our team and loyal to our team, because if I invest in them, guess what? They're going to invest in our organization and they're going to stay with us.
You know, Hoov, listening to you. So, you know, we're kind of biased, right? And not that civilians don't have these characteristics, but you and I and Jeremy are all vets, right? We're in the veteran mafia. But, you know, if I take off our veteran hat for a minute, and any of our listeners out there who are hiring managers, who are section chiefs, who are business line owners, let's say maybe they're junior VPs or something. I mean, those intangibles you just described, let's think about the impact that has on your daily life. You know, we use words like duty day. I mean, how cool is that, right? Like, hey, boss, I'm in this for the long haul. It means as a hiring manager, as a supervisor, as a mid-level manager, I don't have to babysit you. You're not standing in my office every day waiting to be told what to do. You're critically thinking, you're analyzing, you're problem solving of your own initiative and volition. I mean, those intangibles, those 5 things you named make an intangible set that just, you know, puts the average veteran bear on a, you don't have to babysit me path that you may or may not get with the civilian or a college kid. And again, not to be disparaging, but I mean, right? That's the impact of those things when you roll them all up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I implemented a management program into my organization called P2S. For every problem you have, you as an employee come up with 2 solutions before you bring it to me. You take ownership of it and you implement it, and you try some things to fix it yourself. My veterans, they grabbed right onto that immediately, right? Because when you're out in the field and you're in that environment and you had a challenge with something, you had to figure it out. You know, you couldn't just run to your NCO or your commander and say, hey, what do I do? They expected us, hey, when you're under fire, you're under pressure, what do you got to do to figure that out? And I share that with my employees, and my non-veterans have taken that on too. I've literally sat in my office and seen people walk up to my door and they see the sign P2S there. And I see them stop, turn around, and they walk away.
It's beautiful.
But I make sure of it maybe a couple hours later or the next morning. I'll walk over, I'll remember that, and I'll make a note of it, and I'll go see them. I says, hey, I saw you walk by my office and you stopped and you turned around and you left. What was that all about? They said, well, Hoov, I had a problem and I saw your P2S and says, oh, crap, I got to figure this out myself. And guess what? 90% of the time they do. And so that helps you with time management, but it gives them a sense of ownership in their career, the project that they're working on. That's extremely important.
That's great.
You know, and it gives them a safety net. Like, hey, I'm not telling you, don't come see me in my office, because I am the guy in charge and I'm responsible and accountable and with the years of experience in this environment. Like, but you got to do half the work. You got to come in with 2 solutions. We'll have a wee bit of a chat, and then maybe we develop a 3rd solution or COA or course of action or whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, so it's not like, hey, figure it out or else, right? It's figure it out, swing for the fence, and then let's work on your batting stance or whatever, right? What a cool way to manage.
I love that. I love that. My whole career was always, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions.
Correct.
But they never put a number to it. So I love it. I'm going to steal it if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
At least do. Like, I love that, because that gives you 2 codes, 2 shots. And when you build 2 solutions, you typically see one's better than the other really, really quickly. And it creates, it allows you to be creative. It allows you to be a problem solver. It allows you to, you know, take some risks and use your initiative. So I really love that. You did say something about like the, you know, the radar goes down, the aircraft comes in, you better find a solution quick, right? So that kind of speaks to me immediately jumping out. There's probably some MOSs or AFSCs or rates or military specialties that Siemens tends to prefer to hire than others. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, we really focus on the folks that come out of electronics program. You know, if you take a look at, you know, when I did my job description and I was looking for MOSs, I was looking for those electronic tech nuke the nuclear guys coming out of the Navy. Holy cow, they're pretty sharp. And then the radar guys, typically the ATC radar guys or the avionics guys, because they have long technical schools on the electronics side, right? But the big thing is they know how to troubleshoot. They know how to work under pressure, because I'll tell you, we have pressures in our job, especially when we're trying to get maybe it's a 30-story building and we're trying to get it commissioned, or we're trying to get a lab done for a hospital so they can open that lab up and start driving revenue in that lab, right? We get some pressure on our folks in the field, and so they have to be able to handle that pressure. And when you look at those folks from the radar, the Navy on the nuclear, subs or on aircraft carriers or any of the ship, SATCOM guys coming out of communication, anything that there's that critical infrastructure that had to stay online to support our military folks out in the field, they're the ones that we really focus on. And then we'll also take a look at those careers that tie into our building automation, our fire alarm, our security systems. Typically, you've got folks that are coming from the HVAC or the alarm shops to the civil engineering squadrons or the Department of Public Works. They fit really well into our organization too, because they have some skill sets that align well with us.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So it's more of a, hey, I found this, these AFSCs and rates and MOSs and specialties are well suited. Does that mean you guys exclude other ones, or you still give them a shot if they have the right skills?
No, we take a look at the right skills too. So because we're always hiring for sales or project managers as well. So we still like them to have some type of technical aptitude that they come through the military on. But a lot of them go back to school and they get a business degree. They might get a marketing degree, right? So we still talk to those folks because we're hiring for project managers. We're hiring for sales. I always tell everybody, and this is what I really like about Vets to PM, you guys are working on those candidates to get their PMP certified. You're working with those candidates to give them P&L. A lot of people ask me, what's P&L? Profit and loss. You're given that experience, right? Yeah. And I tell you too, most recently, we hire a lot of folks. We like to develop and train and develop within and hire within when we promote to our managers and supervisors, right? But I will take a senior NCO or a junior officer any day that's had that experience, that's managed people, that still has a technical background. I can train them on Siemens. We can ramp them up on Siemens, right? And bring them on. They've already got those soft skills to be a good supervisor or manager. We can bring them in. We rely on Vets to PM though. If you can grab onto them and get that P&L experience for them, that really helps us too, because now they've got that P&L understanding.
So two real quick things, if I can, Hoov. So first of all, I know somebody in a company that published a book on the civilian language of management, and P&L and revenue and income and all those terms are in there. So if Hoov is interviewing you, gang, if you're listening out there and who happens to drop P&L or fiduciary responsibility or something like that in an interview and you stare at him blankly, he knows you don't know what he's talking about, and he's going to have a tough job hiring you. So check out vets2pm.com, get your free autographed digital copy of the book, right? Learn how to speak management. The second thing is, Hoov, that you said that was really big is I get into arguments, well, a little bitty dust-ups, digital dust-ups all the time on social media, and particularly like LinkedIn or whatever. And here's one of the several things that I always get poked in the chest about. If you haven't been managing information technology projects for 30 years in the Air Force, you can't possibly be a project manager on a tech project, or some variation of that admonishment as they're poking me in the chest digitally. And, maybe I'm overly optimistic. Maybe I'm too simple and I rely on empirical data versus somebody's opinion. I don't know what my problem is, but Hoov, we see guys all the time. Just did it 3 weeks ago. E8, Special Forces team guy, entire career, right? The average bear in the Civ Div and some of our own brethren on LinkedIn would write that cat off and say, there's no way you can do IT project management. Guess what he's doing now for a living? Yeah. IT project management, right? Because He's not the SME that needs to speak IT and system configuration and all that stuff. He's the guy that builds the team, equips the team, develops the team, influences the stakeholders to stay out of the team's way and stuff. So I think what you said there, and I'd like you to unpack a little bit more, is it doesn't really matter what the vet did necessarily. Almost all of us have a very large technical aptitude. Yep. You can teach us almost anything. And fairly quickly, 6, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. I mean, even me, welding school, they taught me how to stand up straight. They taught me how to run beads. They taught me how to do HVAC. They taught me how to lag. They taught me how to put out a fire shipboard. I mean, you know what I mean? I became a very accomplished welder just within 6, 8, 10, 12 months of going from civilian can't spell bead to guy in the fleet getting it done. You know what I mean? Technical aptitude. What do you think?
Absolutely, Doc. You're spot on with that. And I'm glad you brought that up about the Special Forces guy, because I actually just interviewed a Special Forces guy. He wasn't looking to come to work for us, but Kathy put me in touch with him because he wanted a little mentoring and coaching, and he was a little discouraged. And I said, absolutely not. Don't be discouraged, because here's what you bring to the table. First of all, one of the skills that we're not taught is listening. You know, can you listen to a customer? Can you listen to a contractor and understand what they're saying? But the big thing about project management that I tell everybody is project management 101. And the number one thing in there that I get complaints on from global customers is communication. Communication. I reached out to your project manager with the question, and he didn't get back with me. And I go to the project manager and I says, hey, the customer reached out to me. It's been 3 days. They sent you a message. Why didn't you respond? Why didn't I have an answer to their question? Wrong answer. You know, in the military, we're taught command asks us a question. Even if we don't know the answer, we don't BS them. We respond back, right? And we say, hey, sir, I don't have an answer for you right now, but gosh darn it, I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to investigate, and I'm going to get back with you. And I'm not going to get back with you tomorrow. I'm not going to get back with you in 3 days. I'm going to get you back with you within 24 hours.
Amen.
I push same day response. Even if you don't know the answer, you respond. Even if the investigation takes a couple of days, but you still have to follow up. And I can tell you that was something I learned early on in the military when I had 16 communication work centers and I was working what was called job control. Command expected me every afternoon and then every morning the following day to follow up. What was going on? What's going on? Why is this SATCOM system down? Why is this radar system down? When's it going to be up and running? And I had to constantly be calling the work centers and the shops and finding that out. It's just like a PM, right? They have to stay on top of that and they have to communicate. And if you're communicating, everything goes well. The thing that customers and contractors hate is they'll say, Mr. PM, when did you know that we had a problem? When did you know that there was going to be a delay in this project? When did you know that product wasn't going to be available? Like right now, we're having a problem with supplies around the US. Everybody is, right? When did you know that delay was going to impact this job and delay it another month or two? Well, I knew that 2 months ago. Well, why didn't you tell us 2 months ago, right? Why didn't you tell us 2 months ago so we could apply it? Now you're telling us right now when the project was supposed to be done in 2 weeks. Now you're saying we're delayed 2 months. They want open and honest communication and repetitive communication. So absolutely. Absolutely.
Old retired battalion commander I worked for when I was at DOD used to say, he was my executive sponsor on several big projects. And he used to tell us, hey, bad news is like roadkill. It does not age well. So, you know, to your point, Hoov, if you got something, do some critical analysis, make some decisions, bring me a couple COAs. We need to have a chat. I need to know about it before I'm in front of the agency director or in front of the Air Force customer or like whatever. Right. And something that simple, the way he said that, it stuck with me. And it's one of my principles I've been using to successfully manage projects for going on almost 3 decades now. Right. And I think your point was really well made, even if it's just an acknowledgement. Hey, customer, I don't have any idea, but I'm going to go research it. I'll hit you in 8 hours or 4 hours or whatever. Just let them know you heard them and set an expectation, right? Communicate.
And keep that commitment. If you give them a time frame, you meet that time frame.
Yeah, for sure. I love it because now you hit two major things, right? Listening and communicating. So first listen, what is the actual problem? Go find what are they really, what's their pain point? What are they really looking for? And then communicate with them like loud and clear, boss. I heard you, getting back with you by tomorrow. COB today, something like that.
Shows attentiveness, shows that their problem is your problem, and that's how you take it. You know, I mean, again, it's an intangible that not everybody has, but us managers, us stakeholders and projects, man, we know it if we see it, and we know it when we don't.
Yeah.
You know,
I can deal with problems. What I can't deal with is silence and ghosting and like, whoa, wait a minute, where am I? Like, let me at least know what problems I can handle. That's too great.
And the other thing for the veterans too to know, it's okay if you don't know the answer. It's okay to say, man, you got me stumped on that one. Let me go figure this out and I'll get back with you. It's okay to not know the answer. I always say, don't try to baffle me with your BS, right? Just tell me the truth and let's work through it, because in today's world, we got everything at our fingertips with technology, right? If you don't know how to change an oil on a piece of equipment, you can pretty much Google it and find a YouTube video, right? On just about anything we have out there. And so if somebody asks you a question, oh yeah, I know how to do that, when you really don't. You know what? I don't know how to do that, but let me investigate into that and figure it out, and then we'll come together and work together on it. So
yeah, couldn't have said it better. With that said, different types of equipment and different specialties within Siemens. What are some of the current openings that you have or that you think will be there in the future?
Oh yeah. So right now we have around 1,000 open positions throughout the U.S. You take a look at every major city, we have opening. Then we have also positions that folks that they can live just about anywhere and then travel around the U.S. as well. There might be some global opportunities in there, but even some of the remote cities, I just helped fill a position up in Duluth, Minnesota. I couldn't believe we had a struggle finding somebody in Duluth, Minnesota, but we did, because it's a beautiful part of the country, right? Especially if you like the outdoors and fishing. But so we're trying to fill those positions, and all of our positions that we're trying to fill, I mean, we've got electronic technicians, if it's in our building automation for smart infrastructure, selling, working in commercial building. We've got fire alarm and security technician positions open, all of which, having that electronics background. And then we have project management positions open that will manage any one of those vertical markets. And then we do have some operations management and supervisor positions open as well. And we have sales. We have sales position. If somebody is really an extrovert and they like being out there and talking and they're knowledgeable, enjoy sitting down with customers and finding solutions for their customer need, we have sales positions that are open. So you take a look at, strong electronic tech positions, building automation, fire alarm and security, project managers, sales. And then the vertical markets that we really focus on is, the federal market. Of course, we do a lot of work on military installation, healthcare, higher ed, K-12 market, and then commercial building. So we're doing right now we're doing a lot of data center work around the country, and some unique places. And if folks have that IT centric background as well and want to work in data centers, especially with our front end work that we have to do, our graphical user interface, we really like to find folks that got an IT background that can help with that as well, because of the networking that we have to do, especially when it comes to a campus environment and in a data center as well.
Wow, that is diverse, right? So
yeah.
I was taking notes. I got to about 14 different style of positions and then I stopped. So I think what you're saying is you've got something for everybody.
We've got something for everybody. And understand too, this is just my smart infrastructures division. Siemens has multiple divisions underneath the Siemens global network, right? Of our healthcare engineers, our energy, our mobility, our e-mobility. We're doing a lot with e-mobility right now. In fact, I just had another division reach out to me this morning because they want to know more about vets to PM, because they heard that our division's having success with us and they want to kind of jump on that bandwagon. And I'm kind of thinking, well, let me get some of my positions filled first, right? That's but right. It's a great position to have. And I mean, Siemens, all of our divisions are hiring right now. So,
you know, and I would just add for all you folks out there listening. Now, I'm an old dog. This is a new trick, this whole podcasty thing. So I don't know if you're like me, but I mean, the podcasts I consume, I stop them and back them up. I would encourage you, if you missed what Hoov was talking about, when he was talking about the volume and the diversity of the opportunities they have at Siemens, right? Like, as he was talking, instead of, like Jeremy's writing down specific things like open, I was thinking, gee whiz, that's an armorer. That's a recruiter. That's a career counselor. That's a ombudsman. Like, I was thinking about all the positions and or collateral duties that were assigned as veterans that could qualify for those jobs. Now, I'm not saying that you walk right into the interview without doing any homework, but what I'm saying is stop the podcast, rewind it, listen to the opportunities that Hoov was talking about. And I bet between ranks and MOS's occupations, wherever you call them, specialties, Siemens could probably take about 16 to 18 different military occupations that you may have never even thought about or heard about in a TAP class. You know what I mean? And that's probably my optimism kicking in there. But just think about what he said. Think about the technical aptitude. Think about things that you've done in your background and how it would lever into those positions. And then connect with Hoov on LinkedIn. Start getting some mentorship. Start getting some coaching. I mean, you know. So anyway, that's if you want to stop the podcast and rewind a wee bit, and have another listen.
Right,
Doc, you brought up an excellent point too. When no matter who the company is, and you're going in for an interview, please do some research on the company. Do some background investigation on the company. Find a little bit out about the company. Know what Siemens does. Know what any company that you're applying to, understand what their mission is, where their focus is, and what type of position you're applying for, and have some questions when you go in there too, and not just questions about, hey, what's my salary going to be, right? Ask some questions about what's a day in life look like for me if I come to work for your organization. Okay,
that's right. And you can get that stuff right off their website, gang. Like you heard Hoov mention, hey, we've got several divisions. I'm in this division. There's this, it's basic stuff. How do you acclimate to the new unit, to the new ship, to the new command? You show up, you grab an org chart, maybe you grab a manual, maybe you connect with, whoever the senior admin is or whoever, but you start to figure out, okay, what does the organizational structure that I am now inside of look like? Because that's going to tell me my left, my right, my up, my down, my front, my back, whatever, right? And you can get a bead on, like Hoov said, oh, Siemens has multiple divisions, 8 to be, as a matter of fact. And I don't know, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, let's say it's 8. And then the one I'm interviewing for is this one. And there's maybe a question, hey, how does it interact with the other ones? Hey, why is this mission so specific to Siemens? And, and like Hoov said, I've heard veterans say this before. Like, hey, man, I got feedback from the director of HR. You didn't have any questions in the final interview. What were you doing? Well, I'd already asked them all. No. I literally sat with a vice president of project services at a national healthcare company. And he said, Eric, that's one of the biggest no-nos somebody can commit. That's the biggest foul they can commit. It may be the final interview, and all I'm here to do is rubber stamp them. All of my hiring managers that have interviewed them 9 times before me love them. If I ask them if they have any questions and their answer is no, they're done. I don't care how great dinner went or how the interviews went. And here's a little hack for you, for those of you that like hacks. I said, well, then, if I've been to 9 interviews and I ask 3 good questions a pop, man, I mean, I've got 27 good questions. Like I may not have that many. And he's like, Eric, I don't care if you ask me the same 3 questions you asked all 9 people before me.
Exactly.
You haven't heard my opinion and my answer and what it means to me. So just use the same 3 questions for all 9 of us. And I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, I probably don't even know that you talked to that person. So anyway, what do you think about any of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I just got asked by a veteran last week, a young Navy nuker that is getting out. He just transitioned from the West Coast over to the East Coast, and I met him in a career fair, and he's going in for some interviews, and he says, what are some good questions to ask? And I says, well, first of all, what are your goals? What's your plan for you? I always put it back on the veteran, and I said, set some goals. What's your 1, 3, 5 year goals, right? And set them up to where you have professional and personal goals. You know, I said, and I use me an example. When my wife and I first got married, we sat down and we had professional, where we wanted to be in our careers and our job, but we had personal goals. When do we want to buy a house by? When do we want to have kids by? When do we want to maybe go on a really nice trip, right? And it gave us something to focus on. And I said, then have those goals. And then when you're in that interview and it comes to the point you have any question, you should be asking one of the first things, what's a day in life going to look like for me as coming to work for you as a technician? What are some of the things that I can expect? What are some of the challenges going to be? What kind of tools are you going to provide, or what kind of tools am I going to need to bring to the table, right? How are you going to develop me? What's development? What's my training path look like over the next, and say to them, you know, I've got my goals in 3 years. I would hope that I start out as an entry-level technician, but in 3 years, I'm hoping maybe I'm a level 2. When do you expect I could get to a senior level? And how long does it take to get to a senior level technician? And then if I decide to go down the road of being a supervisor, what does that look like? So put that back on the employer, see what their development program looks like. You know, I have, when I'm interviewing new folks coming in, we talk about compensation package. I say, don't even start talking about a compensation package until you're in that second or third interview, right? You know, because we got 401k match and all that. Really focus it on your development. What kind of training? Hey, Mr. Employer, I'll say to Doc, hey, Doc, you know, I got my 2-year electronics degree, but I'd really like to get a 4-year degree, maybe in electrical engineering. Maybe I'll get it in business because I eventually want to be a project manager. That's part of my goal. Do you have any tuition assistance with that? Siemens, we do. We have tuition assistance. You come to work for us, you want to continue your education and aligns well with our organization, we will pay for that. I tell them, you get an A, we pay 100%. You get a B, we pay 75%. You get a C, we pay 50%, right? You've got some skin in the game. You want to get it all paid for? You're still working for us, but you're taking that class. We will help pay for that. And I can tell you, I've paid for quite a few bachelor's and master's degree over my 20 plus year tenure with Siemens. And I love seeing folks enhancing their career, having those goals and wanting to get those degrees.
You know, there's a lot of nuance in what he just said, folks, as Hoov was walking us through that. But think about one of the things he said that I caught was key, right? Yes, it's about you and your professional development. But the questions that you're asking aren't for you. The question isn't, hey, what's my compensation package? All I heard is you're just worried about, can you buy X car or X steak or X whatever? That's not necessarily my problem. That's your personal P&L. That's not my P&L. If you ask questions about when can I be a supervisor, or, you know, how can I go to school, or what you're really asking is, Hoov, what kind of system, what kind of ecosystem or tools do you have in place to help me become the most impactful employee for you that I can? It's about you, but it's about the company and Hoov first. Does that make sense? You're just increasing that value proposition that, hey, man, I'm the last interview you got to have for this position.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And one of those things that I heard one of our current skill bridgers brought up was, how do you measure the value that I'm about to bring over a 30, 60, 90 days? Like, how do you tell whether I'm onboarding correctly and providing your company value? How do you measure that? And the guy that was interviewing was like, Wow, that's a good question. I don't have a great answer for you, but I think we're going to figure that one out. Like
Yeah.
a good onboard measuring system, like, whoa, that was a high level question.
I would hope as a hiring manager, the response to that question would be, well, I've got an open door policy. You can come in and see me anytime and talk about your career, but on a monthly review, I want to have an hourly one-on-one or maybe a 2-hour one-on-one if they're a direct report to me. And then maybe on a quarterly basis, we do what's called a skip meeting or a skip lunch, where you're reporting, let's say they report to you, Jeremy, and they're meeting with you once. In the beginning, it might be every week, right? And then it might go to bi-weekly and stuff. But eventually, as they're progressing, you don't have to meet with them as much, but you still want to have those monthly one-on-ones, right? But I always say on a quarterly or at least twice a year, there should be a skip meeting. And that skip meeting would be your direct report. Then would go and talk to Doc. Say, what's the word on the street? As an employee, I'd walk in and say, Doc, what's the word on the street about me? How am I doing? I mean, you're hearing it from Jeremy, but how am I doing? What's your perception? What are customers saying about me, right? And that's one of the things that you can help with their development and their progression within an organization. And Doc might say, hey, you're doing really well. You know, it's getting to a point, you've been with us maybe now for 2 years, you moved up as a technician. Have you thought about being a supervisor? Well, yeah, I'd like to, but you think I'm really ready? And they're like, well, maybe not yet, but let's get you into a couple of training programs, get you into a couple of supervisor management programs and set that. But I always tell the employees, or anytime I interview, I ask them the question. I was like, who do you think owns your development career path? And a lot of them will look at me and say, well, you do, right? And I say, no, you do. You as the employee, you own it. I will approve training classes all day long for employees, but you have to be the one that says, hey, I'm going to take this training class and get on and register and set up and want to be able to do it.
Wow.
If you invest in your career, you're going to be a great employee.
It sounds like you guys are taking a lot of plays out of like even the military structures playbook. I love the idea of the skip meeting. I think that needs to be implemented like worldwide. How cool is that? You skip one level above what's permeating to the top about me. And if it's good stuff, bad stuff, and then they can, you know, it doesn't feel so awkward coming from the direct supervisor. But what is that? Is that what makes Siemens a good place for military individuals? All this structure that you guys have built in, or can you expand on why a military member might want to work with Siemens?
Yeah, I think so. So when I first came we were a smaller company at the time called Landis and Gear when I was first hired, and then became Landis and Staples, and then Siemens purchased us. I can tell you when I came in, there wasn't a lot of standard processes or procedures. Come on in the military, it's all about the matrix and the chain of command, and we've got a lot of processes and procedures we got to follow, right? And we didn't have a lot of that, and now we are structured where the fact that we got standards, we got processes. And so what I see, those folks coming out of the military that are coming into our organization, they like it because those processes and procedures are already established. We provide all the tools you need to be successful. You know, I've interviewed folks, they say, well, do I have to buy a laptop? Do I have to bring my own tools? And no, all those things are provided for you. We provide our field technicians, we provide them a vehicle. They get a vehicle. They have to have a vehicle to go to and from the job site. So we provide all the tools they need to be successful on the job. But it really comes down to the processes that we have in place that align well with what our military folks do.
Wow, that is cool. So you're basically ensuring their success. So I like it. I love that structure. We all crave it. We see it a lot with our transitioning members that join our skill bridge, and then, you know, we've got a really good relationship with Siemens. And so if you want to be a part of it, join the Skill Bridge program with Vets to PM by going to vets2pm.com/skillbridge, sign up for it, show some interest in Siemens, and then we can connect you with Hoov and find a position for you. So I think that is, it's too cool that you have the structure. We crave it as we're going out, and we work with some other employers. Sometimes they kind of do the normal civilian thing, just, you know, you'll know it when it's time to like do the next thing. And our guys are just kind of they lose their mind with that. They
Right.
they need that structure. Tell me what you want me to do to be successful, and I'll go knock it out of the park.
Yep.
Well, cool.
So, Jeremy, he's mentioned field a couple times. And I'm not looking at the field, i.e. Army. I'm looking at a flight line, it looks like. So Hoov, just tell me a little bit about the background that you got there for those of you that are listening and not watching. What's behind you, Hoov? And then how does that translate into, hey, I'm a big vet fan generally, but I'm a guardsman, guards gal fan specifically. Just tell us a wee bit about that.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much time we have here, but let me give you just a quick background. So I was going to college. I right out of high school, was going to college, really didn't know what I wanted to do, was running out of money. My mom and dad said, hey, what are you doing here? You know, the bank of mom and dad's closing. You better figure this out. And I had a brother that was active duty in the Air Force. He was a B-52 jet engine mechanic. And he said, you know, they got this thing called the GI Bill, and you can have the military pay for your career. And so I was in my sophomore year of college, and, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, I was partying probably a little bit too much. I was doing okay, but could have been doing a lot better. But I had an uncle that was 30 years in the Navy, and he says, hey, why don't you come out and see me and check out the Navy and the Marine Corps? And I went out there, and I could tell you, tell you what, there was no way I was going to stay in a hot rack on a ship or a submarine. And the Navy guys will know what I'm talking about on a hot rack, right? And so then I decided to enlist in the Air Force, and my career path in the Air Force started out when I was at basic training. I was going to be a missiles facility specialist, but for one reason or another, when the FBI was doing the background checks, a good friend of mine who my best friend's dad told him when asked if who liked to party, and he said yeah, and they decided I wasn't the best choice to put in a missile facility because I'd probably be having parties. So I ended up going into air traffic control radar maintenance, and my first duty assignment was the 3rd Combat Comm Unit, mobile radar unit out of Tinker Air Force Base down in Oklahoma, and was there during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, had a lot of equipment over in the desert. And then I ended up getting a remote assignment to Shemya, Alaska, out in the Aleutians. And so while I was out there, I actually went back, started to take some college classes again, and I followed up at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage and continued to work, moved out of the radar shop into a job control position so I could go to college full time. So I was going to college full time. I was carrying 19 credits during the day, and I was working the mid shift at night, which was nice because I could get my homework done and study. And I finished my degree, graduated with a bachelor's in engineering technology from the University of Alaska. And command came to me and they said, Hoov, you know, you've been Airman of the Year and doing all these great things and on base. And if you're interested, we'd like to put you in for an OCS slot, of which it got approved. At the same time, I had got a job offer in the civilian market. So I had a commander that I sat down with, talked to him, and he says, if you decide to go the civilian route, continue to give back to our veterans. I said, you know, continue to hire, support the veterans in any way. And I said, well, that's not a problem because my dad's a Korean War veteran, and I did a lot with the American Legion back in Michigan, and my brother's a veteran, and I have uncles that are veterans. And so absolutely. So when I got hired, ended up getting hired by Siemens, eventually bought the company I was working for. I continued to hire veterans, and I got really involved with the Guard and Reserve on an airlift I did to, as an employer, I got invited on an airlift to Guam to see the Guard and Reserve missions over in Guam. And I got asked to become a volunteer for an organization called ESGR, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. And so I became a volunteer with that organization and absolutely loved it. Really got to know about my Guard and Reservists, because I'll be honest with you, I just thought the Guard and Reserve was those weekend warriors and maybe 1 week out of the summer, right? But what a lot of people don't realize, like in Alaska, the Guard and Reserve, they own the airframes. You see an airplane flying, people will say, oh, look at the Air Force is flying today. But if they say that near me, I'll say, oh, no, look it. the Alaska Air National Guard's flying because they own that airframe. That airframe that's sitting behind me, that C-17, is owned by the Alaska Air National Guard. And a lot of people don't realize that the hometown heroes, those folks that live in the States and are in the guards, are the ones taking care of that equipment. And so we're trying to actually right now share that message. And so that's how I got involved. And then I ended up getting asked to be the honorary commander for the Alaska 176 wing. And that's been a lot of fun. I enjoy working with command out there and developing troops and helping find jobs, recruiting them. And so I tell all the active duty guys that are thinking about getting out, but they still want to have a connection with that veteran brotherhood, join the Guard and Reserves. You can get out, get a civilian job, come to work for Siemens. And there's a lot of other companies that love to hire Guard and Reserve. You're protected by USARA law if you do get deployed, but it's a huge opportunity to continue to give back to your country while serving and also have a good civilian job.
Hoov, God bless you, man. You gave me goosebumps, brother. And, you know, and I sure hope that old commander's watching you and taking notes, man. Good on you, brother.
Yep.
Man, wow. It's been a complete honor to have talked with you, Hoov. I also got to chill out in the Shimia, which I don't know that I wanted to stay longer than a couple nights. Our airplane broke. I was like, oh man, we got to get out of here quick. So got to do that experience, got to be on the flight line behind you as well. Got to go up there and fly with the Air National Guard through just being an aviator. And it was, it's a special place. The people up there, the pilots that half the time they're flying for FedEx and the other half the time they're flying for the Guard. They're just a bunch of amazing patriots, and they do some really special missions that even active duty don't get a chance to do. So I hear you, and I completely agree with you. So I think that's about all the time we've got, but any parting shots, tips of wisdom for a transitioning service member that you just want to throw out there before we end the show?
Yeah, I do have some transitional tips that I just want to go over really quick. And I already mentioned some of these. So anybody that's transitioned, I always say start your planning about 3 years out. You really do need to start that planning. All right. You got to figure out, you got to set your goals, your 1, your 3, your 5, your 10-year goals. What do you want to do? Where do you want to live? What kind of career are you looking for? What educational opportunities are out there that you consider? Are you going to use your GI Bill? Are you going to go to a technical school? You know, you really got to think about that transition. Do you want to get out of that active duty and jump over in the Guard and Reserve? That's definitely something you might want to consider. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, which brings up a point. Set up a LinkedIn account, get networked on LinkedIn, annually update your resume. One of the big things I see with veterans right now, they don't have their resume update. I annually update your resume, keep that resume updated. Have a mini bio that tells your story a little bit more about your resume as well, because that really tells your story. And that mini bio will be used when you go in to meet with the new customer or contractor, and it's kind of an introduction of yourself. 1 year prior to getting out, start attending those career fairs. Not only military career fairs, if there's a college campus close by, go sneak over there and talk to people over there too. Try to take a class, 1 or 2 classes there. Work with your third-party recruiting agents like Vets to PM. I didn't have that when I was transitioning out. I didn't have much of anything, right? And Vets to PM, I know Doc and Jeremy and Kathy over there, they will help get you on the right track, and they will connect you with the right people. Okay. Seek out coaching on resumes and interviews. Again, third-party recruiters will help with that. There's a lot of employers that'll help out with that. Even if you don't think you qualify for a job, Doc brought it up, still apply for the job, because when I'm interviewing for a job, it may be a specific job, but there's somebody, oh, you don't have the quite qualifications for that job, but guess what? You have the qualifications to slide nicely over into this position. Okay. So be aware of that, and never give up or feel discouraged. Okay. Stay positive. Ask for feedback after your interviews. Ask, what can I improve on? And I guarantee you the right opportunities out there for you.
And I mean, just to drive that point home as we close this episode out, I mean, gang, what you just heard is from a hiring manager who does it thousands of times for a company he's worked at since it was a startup and acquired by a bigger company. You heard him say he's got near 3 or a little over 3 decades in that organization. So this isn't some random person on LinkedIn telling you this. This isn't somebody with no dog in the fight other than to help you come work at Siemens and or corporate America. So it's not just Burdick or Doc being overly optimistic and trying to sell you a bill of goods that you'll never be able to capitalize on. You have technical aptitude. You have the 5 things that Hoov was talking about. You've got all these intangibles that the employer's going to see when you show up to sit in that seat and take over that role. And a lot of them are starving for that. They aren't getting that kind of payoff with the kid right out of college or, whatever. So, take it from Hoov. The guy's a hiring manager. He does that for a living. Stay optimistic, do what he suggests you do. And it'll take some effort. It'll take some planning, like he said, but it's not hard work. And like they say in the teams, right? The only easy day was yesterday. Do a little bit of planning, a little bit of elbow grease. You got this. It'll be one of the easiest things you've ever done.
All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it, Hoov. Thank you, Doc. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in and spending a bit of time with us at the Military Transition Academy powered by Vets to PM. If we piqued your interest, but you want more details, please head over to the website vetstopm.com and see if we can help prepare you for a better tomorrow or a future meaningful and lucrative career.